Are you or a loved one suffering from autistic burnout? While I don't have financial compensation like the lawyer searching for mesothelioma patients, I do have some helpful insights on what autistic burnout is, what causes it, and what it looks like. I'm Wolf. I'm a late diagnosed autistic who hopes to help other autistics through increasing access to this type of information. Unfortunately, burnout is one aspect of the autistic experience that is not well researched as of now, despite how life-altering it can be. Burnout was coined by the autistic community because we needed a way to describe this phenomenon that really couldn't be explained by anything else health-wise. And I just want to say first and foremost that I'm not a medical professional or a psychological professional, and the information in this video is a mix of first-hand experience, research, and others' experiences with burnout. I'll include my sources at the end of the video and the description in case you want more information. I would also recommend seeing a doctor if you are experiencing any of this because burnout symptoms overlap heavily with other health conditions that a doctor can treat. But chances are, if you're already watching this, you've already seen a doctor and they couldn't figure out what was going on. So what is burnout? So basically, it's a chronic physical, mental, or emotional exhaustion, and it can last for very long periods of time, usually 3 months or longer. Personally, my first burnout was maybe a month and a half long. But the build up to it was years long. It was inevitable. Believe it or not, I'm still recovering from burnout right now. I'm actually in the 3rd month right now. And for me, I'm very much on the recovery end. I was luckily able to take some time off of work to just rest and recover. And that was honestly helpful for me, and that's why I'm able to make this video right now. It can also result in the loss of skills. For example, I like to draw characters, and the first month of my burnout, I was so much worse at drawing characters than I usually am. And now, a couple months later, looking at the characters I'm drawing now, and they look a lot more like what I was doing before my burnout. So I did regain those skills, and I believe that most people can regain those skills that they lose eventually. But it is scary to experience losing skills in the moment. It also includes a reduced tolerance to stimuli, so noises might bother you more, lights might bother you more, certain foods that you can usually tolerate might not be tolerable anymore. Certain textures might just feel weird when they didn't before. But why do we have less tolerance to stimuli than usual? That's where we're going to get into what causes burnout. So a lot of things can cause burnout, and I don't think there's any one thing that does. For me, it's definitely accumulation of multiple different factors. For others, it might be different. Maybe there is just one thing that they're doing that's burning them out or experiencing that's burning them out. But for me, it's very much cumulative, and I'm sure many autistics feel the same way. So masking for extended or frequent periods. So this could include going to school or work and having to hide your autistic traits from other people. Maybe not stimming openly or talking about special interests or not having supports with you like ear defenders or fidgets. And the longer you pretend to not be autistic, the longer you mask, the more tiring it becomes, the more energy it takes. And that's whether you know you're autistic or not. Like I said before, my first burnout, there was years of masking that led up to that moment. And there was a lot of other shit that was going on at that point too, which I think is why my burnout happened when it did. But the masking definitely was a factor. Difficult and unreachable expectations is another thing that can cause it. So we're autistic, we are disabled. Disabled's not a bad word, that's just how it is, because we are disabled by society because it's not designed with our brains in mind. There are things that are just going to be more difficult for us than it would be for an allistic person or even a neurotypical person, because I know a lot of other neurodivergent people who aren't autistic do have these struggles too. Speaking of these expectations, stress from an unaccommodating world is another huge factor. If you're not able to get the supports that you need, it is going to make living in the world a lot harder. In a more physical sense, that might be if you need a wheelchair and there's a business that you want to go to, but they have stairs. So there's going to be some stress, like you're not able to go to the store that you want to go to. Maybe that's not stressful, maybe that's more disappointing. But if you do decide you're going to go to that store, it's a bit of a stressful process to get up those stairs in a wheelchair. I mean, have you ever seen it done? I'm not trying to dismiss wheelchair users' abilities, I just have never seen it myself in public. But having accessible entrances with ramps or elevators where there are stairs to another floor, that is accommodation. And I use that example because that is the most visible form of accommodation that I could think of off the top of my head. But guess what? Our brains need accommodations too. But because people can't see that we need these accommodations, like with a wheelchair user, they sometimes assume that we don't need them. And while we may be able to function without these supports, it'll lead to burnout eventually if you don't have them. I've been saying that burnout is cumulative, and that even includes the stress and overwhelm. So if you are stressed about a lot of things all the time, or you're overwhelmed about things, it will lead to burnout. With the political unrest happening in the country I live in, overwhelm is going to happen to a lot of people here. But also just the stress of trying to reach those difficult expectations, or stress of certain social situations, or stress about where the future's going to go, or about the situation you're currently in. All of that adds up. And in a perfect storm, it'll lead to burnout. That's what happened to me. Twice. This next one also ties into the stress from an unaccommodating world, and that's barriers to support. Honestly, I think the stress from an unaccommodating world comes from the barriers to support, so maybe that should have been listed off first. But basically, burnout is caused by living in a neurotypical world and having to constantly adapt, or just struggle through it, I guess. But now I want to discuss what it feels like. Chronic physical, mental, or emotional exhaustion could mean a variety of things. One Redditor I saw quoted Lord of the Rings saying, "Burnout feels like butter scraped across not enough bread." And honestly, that's a really good way of putting it. Another person said that when they're approaching burnout, it's like driving a car without a fuel gauge, but you know you're running low on gas. So those are more of the similes of what it feels like, but here's more literally what it feels like. So you might experience insomnia or sleeping too much, and sometimes a mix of both. Both were very much the case for me. My first burnout, I didn't really have much insomnia, but I was sleeping a lot. My second burnout, it was more so I was experiencing insomnia at the most inconvenient times for that to happen, and sleeping too much when it was most inconvenient for that to happen. Like when I needed to go to bed so I could get to work early the next day, I would have insomnia, or in the mornings or throughout the day. I would feel just way too sleepy for my own good. Sometimes just sleeping through the morning completely. Your diet might change significantly when you're in burnout. So basically it shifts from whatever your typical diet is to one that is most, if not only, comfort food or easy foods to make. Or you might order a lot of takeout too. It can also mean withdrawing from social circles because those take a lot of energy, and in burnout, you just simply do not have much energy, if any. The first time I was going through burnout, I definitely fought this a lot. But the second time I went through burnout, I just kind of let it happen and just withdrew a lot more. It is difficult or impossible to get out of bed some days. It is difficult to concentrate when you're in burnout, even if it's a special interest or a hyperfixation. I know that's been my experience before. Like, if you feel too exhausted to do the things you like, then you might be in burnout. You might also be more emotionally sensitive than usual. Things that might not usually bother you that much might bother you more. And honestly, that's a bit confusing sometimes. It's like, there are things that happen and I'm like, wait, this didn't used to bother me. Why am I suddenly bothered by it? So if you're watching this and you think that you or someone you know is in burnout, then here's my suggestion. If you're the burning out, rest as much as you possibly can. Take PTO or FMLA if you can. Though I recognize that's not possible for everyone, so perhaps if you're in college and this happens, maybe take a gap year or a gap semester to reevaluate and recover. But if these aren't options for you, just rest as much as you can. And for the person who knows the burning out, just be as supportive as you can. When they say they're struggling and they need help with something, just believe them. You really don't know what's going on internally, and it's better to err on the side of belief and help than not helping them. And if you're watching this and you're not in burnout, you might be asking yourself, well, how do I prevent this from happening? It requires a lot of self-knowledge, really knowing what triggers exhaustion or burnout, then coming up with strategies based on that self-knowledge. So one example would be to have a recovery day after traveling before returning to work or school, but I do have plans to make a video on how to prevent burnout in more detail, so keep an eye on that. If you all would like to hear more about my own experiences with burnout, or if you'd like to see videos where I cover other autistic experiences like overwhelm, shutdown, and meltdown, let me know in the comments. I hope this video has provided you with insight on your own situation or understanding of someone else's. Goodbye.